Good evening, everyone. I'm Spearman, part of the Union County Father Initiative Coalition Spearman Consultants. Last Monday and this Monday, we had a 2-week series Father and Son workshop presentation where we've asked Brother Hamza and Brother Rick.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to thank you guys for coming out today. This is part 2 of our Father and Son workshop. And I just want to commend you guys for coming out, taking the time out of your busy schedules with your family and children to come and sit down and have this time with us. So last time I was here, I kind of broke down who I was and where I came from. My name's Hamza Abbas. I'm from Elizabeth, New Jersey. I went to Elizabeth public school system. And I also had my first child when I was 16. And some of the stuff that I thought about last time that we spoke about was how the process is in raising a child coming from your background and what you had to go through and what you learned and different things like that. So this time I want to switch it up a little bit, and I kind of want to ask you guys some questions. I'm going to ask a few questions. You don't have to answer them right away, but it's kind of like break the ice to see where we at. So if anyone in here has been a father for longer than 5 years, can you raise your hand? Is there anyone in here that's been a father under 5 years? So the reason why I asked this question is because based on the statistics and being a professional at something or being a master at something, they say you need 10,000 hours of experience. If you get 10,000 hours of experience, that makes you a master. And what I did was I kind of like broke down my portfolio, because my oldest son right now is 32 years old. I have a son that's 28, and then I have a 22-year-old daughter, an 18-year-old daughter. I have a 16-year-old son, an 11-year-old son, and a 9-year-old son. So I got a pretty big nest. And what I did was I tried to kind of split up 8 hours realistically times 7 days. I came up with some numbers, and it put me about at a little bit over 10,000. It put me about at 12,000 hours. So when I look back at myself and I say, well, if 10,000 hours makes you a master, I have 12,000, I must be on that Masters Club list. And that's why I was kind of excited. I was actually super excited to be part of this workshop, because I think that my time with my children and my community service, the things that I've done, have warranted me that position. It doesn't make me any better than you guys. You guys are all in the trenches, black men who have to deal with society, its terms, the social and economic part of being a father. I think 2 years ago I read a stat, I'm not sure if this is still a stat, that it costs $250,000 to raise one child. It's a task at hand when you're only making $40,000 a year. You have 2 children, 3 children, you have a wife, you have a house, you have to put food in your refrigerator. So what I thought today should be about is not the fact that there are all these stats, but actually the work that you have done to take yourself into fatherhood, to becoming a father. And I think that what most of us have done was made a pledge with ourselves that we have sons, we have children, and we need to raise them, because legacy is super important, right? I know my grandmother used to say this all the time: it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And this is a learning process, something that I know from experience you're going to go through in your 50s and 60s if your children are still under the age of 20. Not even if they're under the age of 20, if they're your children, you're going to go through these ups and downs with them. You're going to go through these turmoils. And so how do we come together as a community of people? How do we come together as fathers and put ourselves in a situation where we can help each other, where we can have some type of open dialect, no matter what the situation is. If you back on your child support, if you pay an astronomical amount of child support, if you're not at home with the parent, if you're not married, because some of those situations cause conflict too. You're not married to the woman, but you both are co-parenting and you living in the same house. That has a little effect on the outcome of your fatherhood. So what we're trying to do is build that content, that you can go to and use, or go to and be able to get some advice, because sometimes it gets frustrating, it's aggravating. You're trying to do everything. You're dealing with school, you're dealing with your child in school, you're dealing with your child if he plays sports, you're dealing with all the extracurricular activities. At the same time, you still have to do the things that you need to do to provide. And that's one thing that we spoke on last time, was what a father is exactly. And in my philosophy, a father is a protector and a provider. Someone that you can lean on, someone that you can share your experiences with, someone who you watch do something, and that is the way that you learn how to do it. That's going back to what I talked about in the beginning, which is legacy, right? What I feel right now, or my feeling now, is that I want my children to be able to follow in my footsteps, kind of use the game plan of how we're raising our family, or raising children, and provide that for children to come, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, et cetera, et cetera. This is legacy. This is how you build legacy. And I think that we're on to something, and I have conversation with people all the time about our growth process. And when I say our, I don't just want to make it as if it's a black or white thing, but it is for me. Because I'm a black man in an urban atmosphere, and I have to deal with all the things that it takes to get to certain points in this process. So what I see, and what I'm starting to see, is I'm starting to see young black men take on the responsibility of being fathers to their children. What they know that they don't want to be alone like they may have been their self at night. Someone that they can bounce things off of. Someone, when you crying, they're telling you that it's going to be all right. We're going to go through this journey together. Everybody has their way of peeling a potato. Mine's is, I believe that experience is the best provider for your travels. So if you're take for instance my son Saifullah, he goes left or he goes right, I'm reeling him back in, and I'm trying to make him understand that we go astray sometime, but you could come back and it's still fine over here. You haven't disrupted the situation in a point where we can't work what we have out together. And I think that's an important thing. I think this is something that I didn't get until later on in my life. I didn't get that you've made a mistake, it's all right to come back from that mistake. It's a mistake, what do I do to recover? Who do I ask if I'm doing the right thing? Who do I go to for guidance and a hand in becoming better at, just becoming a man, becoming a father or a dad. So these are some of the things that we want to talk about. This is what the forum is. I want to open it up. I'm going to give the floor to Brother Reg. He has some very, very great information that we all can use. So I'm going to give the floor to him.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to, last week Hamza opened up. So this week he asked me if I wanted to, and I said, no, you opened up, because I wanted to hear what he had to say. Because last week he hit me in the head with some stuff. I've been in this business 17 years, and I've heard men over those 17 years give good information about fatherhood, but oftentimes it's surface stuff, real surface stuff. And last week, Hamza hit us in the head with some deep stuff, man, that's often not talked about, and I travel around the country to do this. And so I wanted to hear him again, and he started out Malcolm Gladwell is the one who is credited with this quote, but it's really not his quote. It's either 10,000 hours or 10,000 hours or 10 years to be a master. And for him to break that joint down the way he did and say he put in 12,000 hours, man, that's deep. So for those of you who are looking for some guidance as it relates to being a father, you got it right here. So clap it up for this brother, man, because this, you know, he talked about building content. I have never heard anybody in 17 years say that, because that's exactly what we have to do. We got to build content. He talked about legacy. I got my first cousin back there, James. Now raise it up for James, right? His father is his father is the oldest uncle that I have living. He's not the oldest uncle, and it's my mother's brother. And talk about legacy is my grandfather and my Uncle James. And we have, I think, 6 other brothers in the family, right? But them 7 dudes set the tone for us, right? For us growing up. And we are who we are. That's a man right there. We are who we are because of my grandfathers as the root, and them trees, those branches, and his sons, right? It is about building legacy, right? It is about having guidance. I gave a statement last week where a father told his son to watch where he was walking, and the son looked up to the father and said, "No, watch where you walking, because I'm walking in your footsteps." Right? Again, me and this brother gonna do some stuff together, because he's dynamite, and again, you just have to wrap your hands around him, because he understands he understands the nuances of being a dad. So I don't want to take up much time, man. We just want to open it up for questions.
Let's start. Well, I'll ask a question, and it doesn't have to be directly on this. You can freestyle or elaborate in your best way. But what in your own terms would be, not the definition, because there is a definition, but your definition of what a father should be or provide to his son? Anybody could answer. Anybody could, you know.
I'll jump in there. One of the things I definitely know, we want to protect them. And I think through protection, that means being able to help them navigate through all the experiences you had, good and bad, so that you can kind of lay a roadmap out for them. I also definitely think we got to provide for them. And yeah, two of the major things.
What are the provisions, though? Tell me what the provisions are.
Food, shelter, and clothing, you know, to start with the basic providing. And I think, like I said, protection is having them prepared for life. You know, you want to protect them to be armed with the things they need to go out there in the world. And helping educate them after they leave school, you know, different stuff like that. But I think that's a form of protection that we should have.
And so let me add on to that. Sometimes I'm going to say something. I'm a little controversial in everything that I do, so bear with me, right? Sometimes that protection also is protection from us as fathers. And the reason being is because oftentimes we get into traditions and belief systems based off of some culture that's been pushed to us. I'm gonna put my cousin on the spot again, right? So you see how big that dude is, right? So that dude will grab me and he'll kiss me on the cheek, right? That's not something he learned from his father. Something he learned from his mother's side of the family, right? Because our family, we got this mean, gritty, we ain't letting go of stuff, right? And sometimes that's something we seed into our kids, right? As Hamza said, I have a 32-year-old daughter, right? And sometimes she and I, we still battle, right? But a lot of that battle is a result of what I put into her. And now I have to guide her out of it, right? So sometimes when we start talking about protection, yeah, we protect them from the world, but sometimes it's our responsibility to protect them from our ignorance, you know. So we got to always keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
If y'all don't mind either, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but can you introduce yourself? Like,
My name is
4 men and one young
And a baby, that's a show.
What I want to say is, like, this is not, and you said it earlier, there is a definition, but I think it's actually multiple definitions of fatherhood, right? And because of that, I think we define fatherhood as like water, right? Water could be the most hardest thing that on earth, right? Destroy cities, buildings, what have you. But at the same time, it can provide life, right? So we have to be able to change up in accordance to whatever our children go through. I got 5. They all have the same foundation.
Right.
However, they all are different.
Right.
They all react to the lessons that I try to teach them differently.
Right.
So you have to, as a father, you have to be able to change up. My oldest 4, they're going through different sports. 2 of them was basketball players, one still is. This is my son right here. This is saying that's number 4. One he actually ended up being a football player, and the other one ended up being a track runner. So just like sports, the sports are different. I had to be change up in coaching style. I couldn't coach my track runner to be a football player. I had to train him to be track, so I had to kind of change up on the philosophy that I had to train them. The same thing for the basketball players, and even the 2 basketball players. Even though they play the same position, they 2 different types of players.
Facts.
So the main thing would be, in my opinion, this is only my opinion. One of the things that I found that you have to do is be able to change up and find out what it is that makes that particular son or daughter click, and then kind of reward it and be open to it. I mean, be open to having to be different with that particular child. I mean, and it's a life experience. I mean, I can't even tell you how I did what I did. Right. But I'm just open to trying to be successful.
It's a balance. It's a balance between knowing what each child wants, right? But what you have to instill in that child as well is what your fundamentals are. But my oldest sons always ride me all the time like, Dad, you getting soft.